I think that's what's important about anything that you do. You know, you want to have a message that people can take when they leave the theater. And, you know, when we have a family action adventure movie, we would love to have a message that's bringing people closer together and giving them a different understanding. I know you were talking about the message and why it was so powerful.
Yeah, you know, and to add to what Kevin's saying, it's um, we wanted to obviously expand the Jumanji universe, have fun, create new characters, bring in new actors who people love: Awkwafina, Danny DeVito, Danny Glover, a few others as a surprise. But we also wanted to make sure that it had that fundamental thing that really made the first Jumanji super appealing to audiences around the world. That fundamental thing is Hart, and you know we got lucky in the first one. We made some people laugh, and I think we're going to make some people laugh in this one, and ultimately we're going to have a lot of heart.
It was awesome because, you know, I was of course a big fan of Jumanji, the world that exists in, and then also the last movie I was like obsessed with, and I love these guys, and when Jake had asked me to come on, I couldn't believe it, and I was nervous because I see these guys operate as a group, but it was there is chemistry there, and I really enjoyed them, so it made it easy.
This was a treat to get a call to be in this movie because you know we're excited by the cast and how much friendship there is in the cast, and a good exciting movie. The movie did really well. It's really good to be part of that kind of franchise, you know, like they call it. But more than that, it was like you know, being accepted into a family. So we really dug it. Yeah, I did. We both had a great time.
Mm-hmm. Kevin, like you know, like The Rock, man, they're you know they're capable of finding a way to make it work for them, and so however with me, I talked to Kevin on the phone once. He probably uncovered. He already had some Dannyisms anyway. It is everybody. Nobody always has some from Murtaugh, from Color Purple. I'm quoted those lines. I don't like more like I don't know what. And so, I think he was very aware of how we wanted to go with it and everything else.
What happened with Welcome to the Jungle was thrilling and surprising and kind of, the phrase is overused, but it was a dream come true. I mean, it's not something that that you have any right to even admit to hope for. And you sit there in dark rooms finishing up the movie for a long time, and you go out into these places and you have these glimpses where you think like, maybe people will love this. God, I hope so. But you don't know what's going to happen. And what happened with Welcome to the Jungle was incredible.
So actually, the creation of the name $7 has a great story. So, Dwayne had always had a dream of being an NFL player. He pursued that dream to its limits, and it didn't work out. He didn't get drafted. He went and played at the Canadian Football League, tried to get into the league from there, and he ended up getting cut. And that was the end of that dream, and he realized that dream is no longer a factor for him, and he needs to pursue another route. And what's he going to do? And that's when he made the decision that he was going to be a wrestler. He came back from Canada, had to call his father, have him pick him up, and Dwayne realized, he's like, wow, I've hit rock bottom, literally rock bottom, and he reached into his pocket to see, said, let me just check, and he pulled out a couple crumpled bills, some change, and he realized that all he had to his name was $7. And that was the moment that he realized he only had that much money to his name. He had nowhere to go. He was going to make a change right now. He was going to pivot from one dream, and that new path that he started on led him to where he is now. He got into the WWE. From there, WWE did Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live, a producer saw him. He got Mummy Returns, Scorpion King, and here we are today. And so for us at $7, we've all come from those backgrounds where we had some hard times, you know, as I was cutting my teeth and I was a production assistant, coming home to no power, no electricity, no water, you know, just trying to make ends meet. And when you have that humble background and you've kind of been there, it's just a nice reminder of where we've been. You know, Danny, the other CEO of the company, I remember her having to sell her CDs to help make rent. So there's a grounded aspect to us in terms at $7 where we know what it's like to be on the other side. And for us, we love to transfer the wish fulfillment and the inspiration into the stories we tell. And so anytime we can tell stories that ultimately leave audiences feeling better, you know, we love to tell stories about people that in some way they get a little bit better throughout the movie. And when you can go to a movie, escape whatever kind of craziness is going on in your life, have a good time, and leave floating from the theater, that's a big thing for us, that where we're ultimately infusing that kind of positive energy, good energy into the world. Because look, we all deal with a lot of tough and crazy things, but if we can inspire, add some humor, some hope, some joy in people's lives, at least for just small chunks of time, then we're doing our job as storytellers.
The best way to explain and even talk about it is just to put the word excitement with it. You know, it was an opportunity that I can say that we both were excited to have. And after embarking on a journey of embracing the Dannys, you know, we found a lot of fun with each other, you know, with the material. But that yin and yang that, you know, is there between he and I got to go up to another level, no pun intended. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing from a creative perspective, but also just from a acting perspective as well. It was a great opportunity.
Speaking of acting, when people see Kevin crush his embodying Danny Glover, he almost did it right there. They're gonna love it. They are really gonna love it, and it's really cool. So for people who haven't seen the movie yet, you know, a lot of people who have seen the movie already, all these early reactions and responses have been so really so positive, you know, towards Kevin and toward, which I'm so happy for, towards Jack too. By the way, everybody shines in this movie, which is great. So
all I remember doing is mainly laughing. I don't remember a lot of just like acting. So I'm surprised that we've got a full movie out of what we did on set, because I don't remember doing any of it. But Jake is pretty good at wrangling us, I think. I think if we start laughing too much, he's going to whip us into shape in a very nice Jake way. Yeah. But he's going to get what he needs from us.
We did crack wise quite a bit, but I feel like we were all pretty pro Joe at the same time. I don't feel like he had to crack the whip too many times.
No.
All right, guys, come on. Back to work. I think he only had to do that like once or twice.
He watched me. He would study me. I'd turn up the burners a little bit so that I could give him some more, you know, gestures and like whatever, and you know, go deeper into New Jersey. And he followed me right down that path. And so, you know, I think he did a great job. I was very happy with it. And the thing about it is, like, well, you see the movie, you know, that the idea of it, you know, our presence is felt throughout, which is like really a cool thing. You know, you feel when we've both done movies where we're in bits and pieces here and there, but to have us represented all the way, you know, through the picture is like really unique in Jumanji.
You know, I think that we knew when we returned to this that if we were going to do it again, we had to expand on what we were doing in big ways, in ways you could really see immediately. And part of that had to do with changing what everybody's doing. So we have the same great cast back, and even the same characters back, but everybody's sort of doing something different, and there are more people, and we're including more characters. It was also really important to us that we expand the world physically, that we not live entirely in the jungle with these movies all the time. And so the landscape has expanded in important ways, and you know, it provides all kinds of new opportunities for action and for animals and for sort of the visual effects part of it, because we spend part of the movie in the desert, we spend part of the movie in the jungle, we spend part of the movie in the snowy mountains, and all of those places come with different textures and different kind of excitement to them.
No matter how big the spectacle is, how big the wish fulfillment is, and there's mandrills, and there's ice-capped mountains, and there's deserts, and superpowers, what really makes these movies resonate is the heart, is ultimately the story of, buried in there, two best friends who've kind of lost their way, but they have 40 years of history together, them finding their way back to each other. Spencer finding that confidence again to reconnect with his love in Martha. It's the heart always that makes these movies resonate. So for us, we always have fun doing these great set pieces and the action and the beauty, and it's beautifully shot and making sure everyone laughs. But if you don't keep drilling down to heart, and if at the end of the movie, if you're not truly feeling that emotion, then we're not doing our job as storytellers. So that's always priority number one. And look, we were very fortunate with the first movie. And when you have a hit like the first one and you have the opportunity to come back, for us, we all, as much as everyone wanted the sequel, we all made an agreement among each other that we would not make a sequel unless if we had a story that was worthy of being told and that ultimately was going to carry on the tradition that we set up in the first one. And that meant the movie had to have a ton of heart, a ton of emotion, and be about something real. And once we were able to crack that and check those boxes off, then the fun stuff comes. Then it's like, how do we make it bigger and what creatures can we put? But that foundation is what makes these movies carry and resonate, and for us, ultimately, is what makes these movies something we're so proud of.
When the logo comes up, I always felt proud as an executive to be part of Columbia Pictures and Sony. There's such a great history to that studio, but being a producer and having your name on a movie that also says Sony and that also says Columbia, given that I spent most of my career there, it just makes me very, very happy. It feels like home to me. It's an amazing studio with an amazing tradition of making movies that I think are really for audiences, and so I'm really proud.
A lot of times when you're marketing and promoting a movie, there's things that you have to say, but in this case, there's things that we want to say. We want people to come out to the theater because it's a feel-good film, and it's for families, it's for friends, it's for brothers, sisters. I mean, you name it, you can come and share and join an environment that will be filled with nothing but positivity, with a great message.
Yeah, and for people who enjoyed the first movie, Jumanji, I think, what we're finding, fortunately, is they're walking out of the theater, the people who have seen the movie early, and just saying, wow, this exceeded our expectations. Mm-hmm. And by the way, they're going in, expectations are high, because the first one did pretty good, and made a lot of people happy. So it's the kind of movie, and also to just the size and the scope and scale and the spectacle, and everything is practical. All our from the deserts to the dunes where the first Star Wars was shot. Mm-hmm. They're gonna edit that out, so everything was practical. From the deserts to the dunes, to the Alberta, Calgary snow-capped mountains, to the jungles. We went back to Hawaii, and it's the kind of movie you have to experience on a big screen.
You know what I thought? My initial thought when I read the script, and I was like, whoa, the snow desert. CGI must be sick now. Cut to me literally on a mountain, on a snowy mountain. And we really did go to those places, and that was cool.
It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, it still can have certain things, baggage that you carry for each other, whether it's, your heart on your sleeve, or it's like, whatever kind of, conflicts or things that you go through, it kind of works in all ages. So I think we're the personification in our in Jumanji the Next Level. We're that bit that when you get old and you have history, things that something bothers you about somebody, it's good to confront it and possibly resolve it.
And outside of your siblings, who do you carry with you through life? Your mom and dad, your grandparents, if you got a chance to know them, and everything else,
lessons that the game gives you, the sort of what happens when you win the game and what you're left with. those are things that we all need to work all the time to hang on to. And, you know, we said from the beginning, you know, the game doesn't stay one. And in that way, it's a lot like life, right? You trying to figure out who you are and how to be your best self and what you want to do with your one life. These are all things that we're trying to figure out forever.
So we wanted to make you guys think we were going to be in the jungle a lot, and then we start to flip it right away. So we went all over the place, and where the first movie was based in the jungle, in this movie, we're in the mountains, we're in snow, we're in the desert, we're in forests. We cover all the terrain to give you an idea of just how big the Jumanji universe is for us. And as a production, it was very exciting and very challenging where, you know, we shot a lot in Atlanta, but then we took the show on the road, and for about 5-6 weeks, we were in Calgary, we were in New Mexico, we were in Glamis, we were in California, we were all over the place just expanding the scope, because the beauty of Jumanji is that Jumanji has multiple universes and there's multiple versions of this game. And in our movie, you know, in the next level, you really start to feel just how big that Jumanji world is. And when you beat one level of Jumanji, well, there's another level that's a little bit harder. It's never going to be the same thing, and it's never going to get easier. So that was really exciting to us, and just kind of creating the limitless potential of what Jumanji is. And I think you see in the next level just how big the world is.
As long as I've, you know, I think I've been at Sony for 22 or 23 years. And the thing that we always have done, or we always did, and now they, but I'm still part of the family, do so brilliantly is make movies that I think appeal to the whole world. You know, that there's a kind of a global reach to make movies that, you know, as they always say, are sort of 8 to 80 movies. And, you know, we made the Spider-Man movies when I was an executive, and this movie feels like a movie that reaches everywhere. And I think that's always been a very integral part of the Sony brand.
I can tell you that I am the same character as last time, but she has evolved. In the last film, she was very kind of bookish and nerdy and socially awkward, and she started to begin to access her sort of inner power and confidence. And in this movie, she is the only original player in her original avatar, and so therefore everyone else is flailing around like, what are we gonna do? And she has to kind of lead the charge and be like, okay, I'm in a leadership position now. And it's quite the evolution from the girl that we met in the last film.
In this film, I get to play Fridge, which is the character that Kevin Hart played last time. And Fridge is really bummed that he has to be Shelley Oberon, the curvy genius. Even though I don't know what he's so pissed about. It's the best character. It's the best avatar. I can read the map. And I also play some Bethany. And there may be another surprise in there somewhere.
Oh,
We might have shuffled up the cards a couple times.
I play Ming, and she's a new character, and her powers are cat burglary, and she's also allergic to dander, and we don't meet her until later on for reasons that shall be seen in the movie theater.
Nice.
You gotta pay the money to see the movie. You wanna know the secrets.
It's true.
I generally go to the movies, like to see all the first run movies that come out. So I like them on the big screen. I grew up that way. You know, I mean, I do look at, you know, television, you know, different services that I have to watch movies and revisit some of the old movies that I love. But the biggest kick I get is going out and sitting in the dark theater and letting myself be swallowed up by it. And this movie, Jumanji, is like one of the movies, perfect kind of, you know, where it's adventure and it's got all the like comedy and you know, and the heart. So it's really good. See it on a big screen.
And I think the other part of that is a movie to be seen with an audience. It's a big movie.
Yeah.
It is that you're going to get as much out of the audience response to the movie as you get from your own response to it. In fact, they're going to commingle in some sort of way. The audience response and your response and everything else. And that's why it's fun to go to movies anyway. You know.
The cast from the original movie is brilliant, and one of the big motivating reasons to come back to this is to get those people together to change what they're doing and explore their multitude talents and abilities and all the different ways that they're so funny. But also, part of what that meant is that we would be expanding the world, and the real world cast would grow, right? And so the big idea of bringing in these two gentlemen at a completely different stage in their life than the kids that are the center of the first movie, that was kind of, for me, the electrifying idea that got me really excited about this. And when we started talking about who that should be, the very first names that came to mind were Danny DeVito and Danny Glover, who are both these sort of singular, legendary kind of movie stars who both loom very large for me. Those are guys that I have been among my favorites for as long as I can remember, really forever, you know. And it was a lucky thing that I went and tracked both of them down, and they both sort of hopped right in, you know.
Well, right from the get-go with Jumanji: The Next Level, it was important for us to raise the stakes. And right away, the game's broken. And so, you know, things aren't going to be the way they're supposed to be. And the minute you get pulled into the game and you aren't able to select your avatar, you know you're in for a crazy ride. So you don't know what body you're going to end up in. Now the game's all twisted up, and the challenge is, when you're expecting to go in, you know, our characters thought, oh, we got this. We beat the first thing. We just got to grab the jewel, pull it in the Panthers, in the Jaguar's mouth. We're good to go. Nope, the game's busted, and the game's evolved, and now it's harder. And just like any good video game, every level, there's a new level of a difficulty and challenge. And now our guys have to go to new places. There's a new big, badass villain in our movie named Jurgen the Brutal, who makes Bravestone look a little small, which is hard to do. Thank you, Rory McCann, for only you bringing that kind of thunder. But all the stakes are much higher, and for us, that was important to just up the action, up the danger. You know, our mandrill sequence on the bridges was actually a sequence we've been working on since the first movie. We actually had visions for that, and Welcome to the Jungle. We ran out of time and some money, so we saved it for this one, but that is a set piece that actually had been in development for several years. So for us to finally be able to put it on its legs in the next level and see how cool it came out was so exciting to us, because for us that was always going to be the hardest challenge our characters have faced yet, and you can see how many times our characters dies. The mandrills look fantastic and scary, and also one of the cool reveals of the movie when Alex comes to the rescue and you realize that Bethany is a horse now.
You know, the original Jumanji was obviously a Sony movie, so there's a great Jumanji tradition going back a long way. And so bringing that back to life and seeing Jumanji and Columbia Sony is kind of a perfect coming together.
This is an immersive experience. You go into the video game and like there's all these worlds and there's stampedes with the animals and they're giant, and I think, you know, you want to sort of experience that in the environment of a theater where you can share it with other people because it's so funny, and also the landscapes are so epic.
It's only in a theater that you can have that kind of escape, that a movie that is made to feel big and look big makes you feel like you're in it, and I think that it's the only kind of experience you can have in a movie theater.
Movies just look better on a big screen.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, especially with these big action adventures.
Yeah.
There's like sequences where there's thousands of creatures that are CGI that you wouldn't be able to see it on a little screen.
And the detail, yeah.
You want to see that world come alive. And also, it's fun to see it with a big crowd, with the roar of the crowd, the laughs and the screams.
We're seasoned at bickering. We know
we're
we know how to
right
bicker.
in it, you know.
We can bicker. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
we both made our careers bickering.
Once you do, once you've bickered, we the bickerers from the beginning of the bickering time.
Yeah,
that's good. We fell right into it.
Awkwafina was our first sort of really exciting big idea about how to do that. And working with her has been really wonderful. I could not be a bigger fan. She's as funny as they come. She's a great actress. She's game for anything. I sat down with her before I'd even finished the script, and I said, so this is what happens in this movie, and she said, I'm in, man, let's go.
You'll see that in terms of our creature design, in terms of the locations we go, and just in terms of the overall size of this movie. It is huge, and it is big, and it is fun, and that's something you're only going to be able to experience in it.
When a movie does as well as that movie did, continues to do and resonate with people, you're always pleasantly surprised. I mean, because it's sort of the outer edge of I mean, we reached everybody. That's extraordinary, and I never assume that. It doesn't happen that often. So we were all surprised in the best way. But I also, when I started thinking about this movie in the very, very beginning, and this conceit, this idea for going back and sort of retelling a Jumanji story, occasionally an idea hits you and you're like, oh my God, that's the most universal idea. The idea that any of us could be someone else, we could step into the shoes of an avatar who doesn't have our fears and our anxieties and our weaknesses. It's such a big idea, it's such a universal idea that I guess part of me always believed it could be one of those movies. And then, you couple a big sticky idea like that with a brilliant comedy, director. And when I say that about Jake, it's more than, he's a brilliant character comedy director and now a brilliant character comedy adventure action director, and you apply all those pieces to this one central big idea, and then a cast that is, as a producer, if I said to you, I'm going to go make a movie with Dwayne Johnson and Jack Black and Kevin Hart and Karen Gillan and Awkwafina and Danny DeVito and everything, you'd say, no, you're not. That's not going to, you're fantasizing. So that never happens. And the fact that it did is and has been sort of the perfect storm. And so knock wood, this one lands with the world the way the last one did, and I'm confident it will.
Because this is so much fun and it's such a fun concept, but if there wasn't like a real storyline and message driving the whole thing, then it wouldn't mean quite as much. And I think it's really important to have that in there, and that's what makes Jumanji so special in the last movie and this one.
Yeah, it is the thing that gave me chills when I was reading the script, is the surprising ways in which our heroes prevail, And it was moving. It was emotionally moving. A really well done piece of writing.
Rory McCann is another one of these just like singular kind of presence, He's brilliant. I had watched him on Game of Thrones like everybody else, and I was a huge fan, and I tracked him down wherever he was. He's a traveling mountain man who, he's an actual adventurer, Rory. So when you want him, you gotta send out the Coast Guard looking for him. But we found him, and I was able to convince him to come do this. And I just think he's absolutely brilliant.
I've always been a huge fan of his, and when I working with him as an executive, and really now as a producer, he is that thing that you hope for, which is someone with a really clear point of view. And you have to have that in a director. It is the director's movie. He makes all the critical decisions every day. I'm there to support him. Hiram and I and Dwayne, we're there to support him, and to give him all the tools and to annoy him and tap him on the shoulder. But it's his call. He's the quarterback, and it means everything, because as I actually said yesterday in the press conference, he's so sure-footed that it gives all of us in every job, the actors, you heard from them, the producers, the camera operator, everybody on the set has confidence that the person who's in charge, who's saying action, who's saying cut, actually has a really clear sense of what they're trying to accomplish and get. And then, what you get with Jake, which is just in his director DNA, and some of it comes from comedy also, is a willingness to play and to experiment and to not be rigid about what we're doing, but to actually be open. Because when you have a cast like we assembled, you're going to get things on the day from Kevin and Jack and DJ that you can't make up, because they just are happening in real time, and that he creates an atmosphere that's also safe and free to do that in and to capture is really rare. So it's been an amazing thing to watch his evolution through these movies, and it's a great thing to be able to produce that.
They're rowdy, and they're energized, but they are the hardest working, funniest group of people. And like, you know, we've been all over the place together now, and you're standing up there on a mountain in Canada and it's freezing cold and they're in those costumes and stuff, and they stand there and they deliver at such an incredibly high level every single time.
I think all of us have we all grew up doing this. So we have a very healthy respect for the process, for the people that are making it possible. You know, our partnership with Sony has been incredible. I mean, the studio has just been at our back. You know, what that means when you're standing out on a snowy mountaintop in Calgary and the sun is going down and you're trying to get the work done with very little time and everybody's freezing. To know that the studio is at your back and supportive of you and a partner is so huge as filmmakers, and we've had that the whole way, and it's been super meaningful.
It's always been central to me that movies got to be funny first and foremost. The action has to be legit, really real action, good action. We're not going to do comedy action. We're really going to make it like an action movie in the parts of it that are an action movie. And just as important in both of those things, there's this sort of human core to it, which is that we're trying to tell stories about these characters that we love and do it in an honest way that has a lot of, you know, real sort of feeling to it. And all those things are sort of fit together to make up what these movies.